Hey, you beautiful beings. Welcome to Empowered Human with Nina Garcia. I am your host, and you are listening to the throwback episodes. Yeah, I have officially taken a pause on creating new episodes for the podcast so that I can focus on writing the book. It became very clear that while I have loved doing the podcast, I'm getting these episodes out every week to you all piecemeal. I was like, no more, no more. You all were like, please, please, can you get us all those skills and tools, Nina, in one area so that we can do the empowered human journey, so that we can really see what it's like from start to finish? To which I say, yes, absolutely. Let me get this to you. Yes. So what you're going to be hearing is this. You're going to be hearing throwback episodes from all 6 seasons, okay? It's not going to be every episode, so don't freak out on me yet. But it is going to be some of the episodes that were highlighted, that were popular, that we think, maybe you all missed and we want to bring it back. You're going to be hearing throwback episodes, and I am going to be listening along with you. I too want to hear about the journey and experience the journey that I had as we moved from Triggered Can We Play With That, the original podcast, all the way to Empowered Human with Nina Garcia. So you're going to hear personal stories. You're going to hear interviews. You're going to be given skills in every episode. Yes, you're going to be given tools in every episode for you to become skilled in. It is totally up to you whether you want to listen. If it's not the episode for you, skip to the next week, right? You just take what works for you, leave what doesn't. And if there's some stuff you're curious about, why don't you just go ahead and put that on the shelf? The podcast has always been about putting resources in the hands of people without needing to pay for it, right? And so this is no different. Even with these throwback episodes, what you're going to hear is this. We're going through, just as I said, you're going to still hear me talk at the beginning of each episode, letting you know, hey, we've had a transition. You're going to hear the original intro to the episode. You're going to hear the show music, and then you're going to hear the full original episode. This could mean that dates are off, that times are off, that people are talked about, that may no longer be in our lives, right? Just be aware of that. At the very end of the episode, you're going to see this face again come back to remind you that it was a throwback episode and to maybe offer you some adventure challenges as you move from week to week, right? Though the format of the episode did change over the years that we've done this podcast, the value is still there. So if you like something, definitely hit me up on Instagram at Drama Therapist Nina and be like, Nina, I love that throwback episode about XYZ thing. Yes, fill in the blank with that. Let me know. And if there's something that you're looking for in the meantime, also hit me up on Instagram at Drama Therapist Nina and let me know. Otherwise, stay curious and enjoy the ride, folks. I'll be right along there with you. Welcome to Empowered Human, the dramatically playful podcast that invites you to heal humanity, the one within you, me, and the world at large. I'm your host, drama therapist, empowerment specialist, and not to mention empowered human, Nina Garcia. And I'm so stoked you're joining me on the journey. Every Wednesday, you are invited to explore transforming from powered to empowered with genuinely human stories of courageous existence, healing from invalidation, and truly belonging to you. So wherever you are on the spectrum, from empowerment curious to empowered human ambassador, this podcast is designed to humanize. Get ready to lean into your edge, heal your worldview, and finally belong to you. This is Empowered Human. Hey you, Nina here. This episode plays with relational trauma responses in relationship to other people. You might know about the very popular fight, flight, freeze, but do you know some of the other responses I'm going to share? We're going to be taking the mystery out of why some people do what they do in relationship with other people. So I am curious. You ready to play? So, this episode is playing with relational trauma. And before we even launch into that, I want to go ahead and talk about what a trauma response is, period, right? What is a threat, period? Let's go to the basics. So, a threat, something threatening that happens to your life, right? Whatever the case is, if it's a wild dog running after you or a car gone askew on the road about to come at you, right? It's anything that threatens your life. And your body responds with a natural threat response, right? In order to help you survive, it has a very natural response to whatever's happening in its environment. If there is a trauma that develops, right? The stressor then gets included in your body, right? The stress stays there. This is now a trauma response. And while it is a natural response to a threat in your environment, it is a survival response. The challenge comes if it continues to pop up in your life when there is no actual threat. I repeat, problem is when your body, mind, feelings keep reacting in the present moment as if there is a threat, but there is not. This is what we know popularly on this podcast as being triggered, okay? A trigger is something in the present moment that triggers a bigger and older narrative for your body to respond to in as if it were happening in that moment, but it's not. So, in particular, where I really want to lean in when we think about threat responses and trauma responses and how that can continue to come back is how it shows up specifically in relational trauma. When you as a human being experience abuse, neglect, or suffering at the hands of someone you relied on, this is when relational trauma can develop. Because you survived that relationship using a particular threat and trauma response, this then continues to show up in your other relationships. This poses lots of challenges, folks, especially if that response that saved you at one point is now habitually been used for years and years. That's a problem. It can be a problem. So for those of us who are like, snap, crackle, pop, that might be me. Beyond giving you more understanding around the human experience, we want to take away the mystery. When people blow up or implode, right, whether they explode or implode with their emotions, it is not a mystery why. There's something that's triggering them. So today's episode is really going to invite you to look at actually giving you some labels for why people might be doing what they're doing emotionally. What's going to be really helpful for today's episode is if you already have in mind a relationship in your life where there is conflict. While it does not mean that there is necessarily relational trauma, for those of us who know we definitely have or might have had relational trauma in the past, this can be really, really helpful. And even if we have not had relational trauma in the sort of textbook way that we might look at it, we all have relationships where there is conflict. So I want to invite you to take out your journal if you haven't already, or click save in your mind. What relationship that has conflict in your life are you going to be thinking about for the next few minutes? Sometimes you will hear this easily remembered as fight, flight, freeze, appease. Appease includes both submit and attach, at least for this episode, friends. I really want to invite you to look at these 5 different ways of response and reacting that we have in moments. I'm also going to break it down for you in what each of those looks like physically, mentally, and emotionally. And if you identify with one, I want you to write it down or click save, because I would really want you to ask yourself if that is what is sounding familiar to your journey, is that how you want it to be? And if it's not, how can you be more intentional about shifting it? How can you be more intentional, about putting yourself in the driver's seat and not letting your emotions hijack you? Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So let's do some general examples. I'm going to start with fight. I do think it's the easiest one to recognize. So here goes. If you are in your
conflictual relationship, whatever relationship you've chosen where there's conflict. And your typical response is fight. Physically, you might throw things or push them away. Mentally, you might get defensive and start coming up with ways to attack their personal character or things that they value. That's a fight mental response. Emotionally, for fight, you might blow up. You might yell and scream, and your emotions might go all over the place without a container, which of course pushes the other person away, which is the objective of the fight response. If you feel threatened, right? And that's just your body feels threatened. These are ways that it can respond if it would choose the fight response as its threat response. So that one I want you to take away, click save. We're going to keep going. If in your conflictual relationship, flight is what typically happens. You will notice this physically by potentially drinking, drugs, self-medication, any of those things that help you get away, disappear. I just want to, escape for a minute. That is flight. Now, physically, those are the things you'll do. Mentally, it's things that help you distance, check out, escape, right? That is flight. Emotionally, flight is changing from one to another emotion. It's like all of a sudden, oh, I'm not scared or feeling threatened. I'm really tired. I don't know if I can talk about this right now. I need to go to sleep. Or, man, emotionally, I just feel like I'm unclear about how I'm feeling. That is flight. It's actually pulling you out of the moment. It's trying to get you to emotionally exit your body, friends. That's how flight shows up. If freeze is your response when there's conflict in relationships, physically, you feel like you can't move. You feel stuck. Mentally, you might actually have a thought blockage. It's like you're like, it's right. Thought blockage. That is what happens to you when like the words won't come and you want to be able to explain or share or express. Thought blockage happens mentally for those of us who freeze. Emotionally, you may go numb. Emotional freezes, that's a numb response, right? That is your freeze response, is what's happening there. Take your notes, and I'm going to keep going. Appease, remember, has submit and attach. So for submit, physically, you make yourself physically smaller. You might hunch down, you might sit down, lay down, whatever it takes to make yourself less threatening. That is submit physically. Mentally, your thoughts may begin to say things like, I'm not as smart as them. I'm not as powerful as them. That is a submit response. And let's remember here, it is for your survival. Your body wants you to survive at all costs. Emotionally, a submit response might be minimizing your feelings relative to the other person in the situation. Your feelings don't matter as much. That's what you end up saying to yourself, right? Oh, it's not really that big a deal. Sound familiar, friends? That is the submit response. Take some notes. And without judgment, let's keep going. Attach. Now, attach is very interesting, and we won't really get to dive into it today. But physically, if attach is your response in relational conflict, you may put yourself near that other person. You may expect that you are physically near them, that they're the one to call you, right? That's it. You put yourself right there for them to get you. That's attach. Or flip side of this physically, you demand that they're near you. If you are demanding that someone is near you, that is an attach physical threat response, right? This sort of demanding that something needs to happen there. Mentally, it's the same thing, right? And you just take that. What are the thoughts? My thoughts are, I need to be with you, or you must be with me. That is an attach threat response. emotionally, I can't function without you. I'm emotionally unstable without you. Flip side of that, you make me crazy. You have to do this, right? That is all attach, friends. All attach. Physically, mentally, and emotionally response. Ask yourself now, which, if any of these, sound familiar to you? Ask yourself now, is it working? Do you have the relationships you want in your life, or is relational trauma responses getting in the way? It's a good question, friends. It's a good question. I genuinely hope you're asking yourself this, as this is our last week of mental health awareness, and the invitation is to lean into relational trauma and how it may be showing up in your life. We're nearing the end of this particular episode, and I am wondering, what's your takeaway? I'm sitting with moments where I've been in relationships that were healthy. I've been in relationships that were toxic and abusive. And I've been in relationships that were neglectful. And how tricky it is to see the neglectful relationships. There was a lot of fight in one in particular that I think of at the beginning. There wasn't any flight, right, that really stood out. But in particular, I think about how much of that submit and attach came in trying to feel anything besides neglect, right? That is the very seedlings of relational trauma. Did I want to continue to have that with me? No. Took the time to look at it and to work through it, to really show up the intentional way that I want to. And I certainly hope that you are able to do that today. When are you engaging in fight, flight, freeze, or appease, right? And that's with submit and attach. When are you engaging in fight, flight, freeze, submit, attach? When do you or the people you care about engage? In particular, with submit and attach. I think those are the hardest to recognize.
It's me again, reminding you that this was a throwback episode. I hope that you were able to take something from it, even one little nugget of wisdom, and use that between this week and next week, right? The purpose of these episodes is to give you tools. It is up to you to decide whether you want to become skilled in them. You picking up what I'm putting down? So take a tool, take something, a perspective, a moment, something that works for you, and use it in your life to transform hard conversations into teachable moments, to transform the way that you play with scary moments, right? To transform your life, to help make you the most courageous, most healing-oriented, most belonging person, right? No matter where you go, that you belong to yourself everywhere you go, right? Courage, healing, belonging, whatever it is that you are taking from this episode, take it with you so that you can get out there and live your most vibrant life, you beautiful human being, okay? All right, I'm signing off for now, but you know I'm gonna see you soon, okay? I'm gonna see you real soon. Bye for now. Thank you so much for being willing to explore healing your humanity on Empowered Human. I hope you found at least one new way to transform your worldview from powered to empowered. If you took something from the show, please take a moment of your time and subscribe to Empowered Human. And if it really nourished you, leave us a review. Your feedback helps me understand what our community needs. Not to mention, it helps others discover the empowered human life. So keep this last bit in mind. All the visual goodies come with me on Instagram at Drama Therapist Nina. Stay up to date there on upcoming episodes, behind the scenes goodness, and reels dropping knowledge. Thank you again for being part of the empowered human community. Until next time, stay curious.